Hey, this is Roger Bartlett, and you're tuned in to the Paul Leslie Hour.
Hey, you're here? Yeah, Skippy, you are. And you're plugged into episode number 996 of the Paul Leslie Hour. You know, this is Paul's second interview with singer-songwriter guitarist Roger Bartlett. Roger's had a legendary status as the original, very first member of Jimmy Buffett's Coral Reefer Band. If you follow BuffettNews.com, you know about such things. This episode was recorded in beautiful Saint Petersburg, Florida. You'll see Roger's joined by Melissa May, and you'll be treated to some unplugged musical performances as well. You know, you can help the Paul Leslie Hour in our mission to continue to bring exclusive content like this to the masses. Are you part of the masses? Go to www.thepaulleslie.com/support and give yourself a hand. We thank you. And now I think this show needs to get rolling. Let's go!
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here in Saint Petersburg, Florida, in the beautiful Sunshine State. I'm sitting here with a singer, songwriter, guitarist, recording artist. His most recent album is The Spice of Life, and he's also has the distinction of being the original Coral Reefer, the very first member of Jimmy Buffett's band. Our first face-to-face interview, Roger Bartlett. Great pleasure to sit with you.
Great pleasure to sit with you, Paul. It's been a long time. We had one interview, I think it was 36 years ago.
It was several moons back, but it's good to have you in living color.
Yeah, well, great to be here.
So, Roger, what has surprised you the most about your life?
Wow. I've never gotten that question. I hesitate to tell you the truth.
It's a family show. So.
Yeah. Well, that I've managed to be a musician for all this time, and that, at the age of 73, I just have a new album out, and I'm working on a new album, at this time. So, then I had an album out in 2021. So 2021, 2023, and now I'll probably have one out in 2025. That surprised me that I kind of thought the one I did in 2021 would be the last one that I did. And it went really well, and people responded well to it. And then all of a sudden, 10 new songs plopped out, I was like, okay, and I had a team working on the album of musicians and singers and arrangers, that just, like I have a friend who's a violinist on Broadway, and I said, well, I'll get her to, just put some pads on, some whole notes behind some stuff, and I sent her a song, and she sent me back a stunning arrangement. A violin arrangement where she played violin and viola and did all the parts, and I had a friend, the violin player's name is Synovia Cummins, and I have a friend named Emily Bendiger who is a backup singer in New York, and I sent her off some stuff, and she sent me like a whole arrangement, a vocal arrangement, and I was like, well, I'm really getting the best out of these people, and I have some musicians here in town, a guy named Vinny Sapleski who plays bass, and Vinny is an excellent player and really works hard on stuff, and a piano player named Robin Swinson who added so much to the album, and I had some singers here in town, a girl named it goes by the name of Honeybee, but her name is Melissa May, and she sang on a song on the record, and just it was, everybody's parts were just excellent. I couldn't have asked for, more from people. So, it's just been so great being down here. I kind of think of St. Petersburg now as being my sleepy little beach town, So I'm still cranking them out. Melissa and I are writing together. And, there's another girl who sang on the album named Sienna Alida, who sang on the first song, Peace of Mind, and she sang on another song on the album called Wheels Turning, and she did an excellent job. I'm just astounded that I was able in my apartment to produce something that sounds like a finished record that cost, $5 million, so don't tell the musicians it should have cost that.
Well, the production on this most recent record is really excellent. And I'm very curious because, having listened to your earlier recordings, there's a lot more of Latin sounds, little jazzy inflections here and there. Has living in Florida had an influence on you?
It has. It's had a profound influence on me. When I was in New York City, I was more of like a blues rock kind of guy, and I had a little jazzy thing in what I was doing. I always loved jazz. And then a friend of mine named Phyllis McBride had an idea to write a jazz musical. And so she got me, exploring all these, jazz chords and jazz progressions and stuff. There's a song actually on The Spice of Life from the musical that we wrote together called Zinzi.
Yeah.
There's a song on there called Zinzi's Theme, which is an instrumental. But there was, that sort of got me headed in the wave of jazz. And then when I got down here, I began to meet, Cuban musicians and listen to Brazilian pop and I went to Portugal and which is closely tied to Brazil. And wrote a song about a girl in Portugal named Catarina. It's on the record. So Florida's had a big influence on me musically. That and when I was in New York City, it was mostly appearing with a band. But down here, almost everything is solo or duo. So, I found myself sitting with an acoustic guitar, playing gigs, without a band. And, that does have a big impact on how you write as well, so.
Well, that Zinzi's theme, I really like that melody. And maybe you just play us just a few seconds. I pictured myself when I was listening to that, I thought I could imagine myself in some really nice restaurant about to stuff myself. And this is playing.
Well, kind of hard to do. It's mainly a piano saxophone song. I'm just kind of playing rhythm in the background.
I got you.
But that was one of the songs from the musical that really stuck with me, and actually it's been getting a lot of response from people. People seem to really like it a bunch. The album kind of, I've always had a problem staying in one musical genre, and the album continues that by wandering from, between jazz and rock and pop and blues and so it's kind of like it's more like a 60s album in that back then you could get away with doing several different musical styles, whereas today they like you to be in one particular thing. So.
Right. Something that you mentioned the first time that we talked that I thought, wow, I really blew it in terms of not asking you more about it. You told a quick aside that I just thought like, wow, how about that? About eating oysters when you were just a boy. Did you have an experience where you were eating oysters with a musical legend, with your father?
I did. My father used to be an announcer for the Louisiana Hayride. And, after he left the Hayride, he was in the Hayride probably 1951, 52, 53, maybe... so 54, somewhere around in there. And then he left the Hayride because he went to a different radio station. And we went back and went down to the Hayride when I was, I guess, 11 or 12. And after the Hayride, we went out to the Mirror Steakhouse, where we had oysters with Roy Orbison and another artist whose name was Stonewall Jackson. There's a name you're probably not going to hear these days. But I remember looking at Roy. Roy had like the thickest glasses I'd ever seen. I was like, oh my God, they're like Coke bottles, But he was a very nice guy. I was like 11, so that was kind of cool.
Well, Roger, would you like to maybe play us something?
No.
Maybe a sample?
Sure. Can I get Melissa to sing along?
Absolutely.
All right. This is a song from the new album, The Spice of Life, and it's the second song on the album, and it's really been getting a lot of response from people. It's called "Enjoying a Beautiful Day." I've been whistling a tune with a grin, hoping this day won't end. I've been singing a song in my mind, singing I feel fine. I should be doing whatever I'm doing today, riding the wind. Pretty soon I'll be flying away. Yeah, enjoying a beautiful day. Enjoying a beautiful day. Why don't you come along for the ride? We'll have some fun outside. Picnic time in the grass, 'neath the trees, with the birds and bees. We should be doing whatever we're doing today, riding the wind. Pretty soon we'll be flying away. Yeah, enjoying a beautiful day. Enjoying a beautiful day. Thank you. That's just a little bit of it. There's a lot more going on there, and we got a bunch of really great songs on the album. I guess you want me to do another one now? Well, we got Melissa strapped down to the chair.
Yeah,
You
why
can
not?
space it out
if
if you want.
you're up, if you all are up for it,
Okay.
Okay.
we'll keep rolling.
All right. Actually, here's one. This is one from the album before The Spice of Life. This is from my album Sunset. And, you know, I played out on St. Pete Beach at a place called the Paradise Grill. Melissa plays out there too. A guy named John Schneider books us in there. And it has, you know, there's signs all over St. Pete saying, St. Pete, the sunset capital of the world. And, you know, so we sit out there on the beach. There's a little like wooden stage and watch the sun go down in the afternoon. I was like, what song shall I sing? You know, I was like, should I do, I don't know, Black Magic Woman? No, that's probably not going to do it. Should I do, I couldn't figure out. So I wrote one, and this is called Sunset. Watch the sun go down and slip into the bay. While the world spins round, it happens every day. Golden colors turn to red, then to blue, then to gray, while the spirits of the night chase the light away. At sunset, sunset, at sunset, sunset. When the shadows fall, the stars begin to rise. Hear the moonlight call. There's stardust in your eyes. Golden colors turn to red, then to blue, then to gray, while the spirits of the night chase the light away. At sunset, sunset, at sunset, sunset.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Some great performances that you all did there.
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely. So, Roger, has the reason that you create music, has it changed through the years?
Not really. You know, I'm just sort of compelled to do it. You know, when I after the Sunset album, I thought that was going to be my last album, and stuff just kept coming out. You know, it's sort of like, you know, the universe sends stuff to me, and I play it, and I go, oh, I like that, you know? So I just start writing another song, and, you know, luckily, lately, other people have liked it, too.
I recall in our first interview, you were talking about some of the old songs that you learned early on, like folk kind of songs, like Tom Dooley,
right.
Things like that. But what would you say in terms of the influences as a songwriter, as a guitarist, as a singer? Who are the big Roger Bartlett influences?
Well, you know, the Beatles. You know, everybody says the Beatles, but, you know, I was 14 when the Beatles came to the U.S., you know, and that had a huge impact on everybody. And I think I wrote my first song when I was 14. It was called "Oh, the Gypsy Wanderer." It was not a big hit, but you know, I just kept writing over the years. you know, when you're young, you know, you write about the heartbreak or the pretty girls or the, you know, and then when you're older, you know, your subject matter kind of spreads out a little bit, but you know, there's always heartbreak and pretty girls, you know, no matter what age you are. You know, where there's pretty girls, there's heartbreak.
This is very true.
But now I have more subjects. You know, I like to branch out and do things, songs about other things. You know, I have a song called Wheels Turning. You know, it's just about how things just keep going on, no matter, you know, the constant in life is change. You know, and you know, I do have a song about a pretty girl, you know, named Katerina on the album, and on the Sunset album, I have you know, a little song about heartbreak called "Nothing Lasts Forever." You know, but then, you know, I have Dallas that I wrote, you know, that Jimmy Buffett recorded, you know, a long time ago. I wrote that when I was 20 years old. You know, so that was like over 100 years ago.
I'm curious about that song, Dallas. You told me before about how you felt like you were kind of unfair to Dallas. And I've done that before. You know, you go to a city and maybe your experiences aren't so good and you walk away and you say, you know, this town sucks. But I'm curious. And then maybe you go back and you think, maybe it was just the circumstances of the time. But I'm curious how Jimmy Buffett, what did he say about it? What about that song do you think resonated with him where he thought, you know, I'm going to cut this one?
Well, you know, I'll have to admit, I used a little deception on him. You know, he had me in. He said, you know, play me some of your songs because I want to record one of your songs on the next album. So I played him a song I'd written called "A Buccaneer Looks at 39." He said, no, that's not really good. So I played him a song I'd written called "I Wish I Had a Handlebar Mustache." And, you know, but I played him Dallas, and he liked Dallas, but I told him Jerry Jeff Walker was going to record it. And he was like, no, I'll put this one on that next album. And really, the truth is, Jerry Jeff had heard it, and he said, I like the song, but he said, Dallas is one of my biggest markets. I would never do that song. You know, one point in time, a guy from the Dallas Morning News, you know, emailed me, and he said, you know, I was going to interview Jimmy Buffett before his next concert here and ask him why he wrote Dallas. And he said, I did a little more research, and I realized that you wrote it. He said, you know, what do you have against Dallas? And I was like, well, you know, it was the circumstances of the time, you know.
Right.
And after that, I kind of rewrote the lyrics, you know, and I'd never done my own version of the song until during the pandemic. In 2020, I recorded a version of the song, and I did one of those little pandemic videos where everybody chimes in from their respective location, you know.
Right.
So, you know, it's my song, so I can change the words if I want to.
Right.
You know, so
you could flip it on its head.
I could do anything.
Yeah, if you ever get the chance to go to Dallas, take it from me.
Go.
What was your first impression back in the 70s when you met Jimmy Buffett?
Oh, wow. You know, the first time I met him, I was with an acoustic trio that was kind of like Crosby, Stills and Nash meets the band, and we were called the Outlaw Brothers. And we opened for him at the Exit Inn in Nashville there. And, I just met him briefly, and then about a year and a half later, I'd gone to Austin, Texas, and I was working with the band that was opening for him. And back in those days, you'd do like 3 or 4 nights, it'd be like Wednesday through Saturday or Thursday through Saturday or Sunday, whatever. And probably on the last night, back in the green room, or it wasn't really a green room, it was like the office behind the bar. And I said, you know what, you need a guitar player. He said, "Oh yeah?" I said, "Yeah, me." And he said, "Well, come up and sit in with me on the next set." I mean, I didn't really know his songs, and you know, that's how kind of loosey-goosey things were back then. "Come on up and sit in with me, and we'll see how it goes," he said. So I went up there and I watched his hands, you know, and kind of played along, and whether hear harmony, I was like, "Monday, it'll be all right, Monday," you know. So the next thing I knew, I was at the Troubadour with him, and we were opening for a guy named Hoyt Axton. You know who Hoyt Axton is?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and then we did, I don't know, 4 or 5 days at the Troubadour, and then we did a tour of New England with Three Dog Night, flying on their DC-3, you know, which was, we played the Boston Music Hall, and we played Rochester, New York, played not a stadium, an arena there, and then we played another arena in Bangor, Maine. You know, and I remember that the promoter in Boston came backstage and he was talking to Jimmy, and he said, "You know, you got to be off the stage by 9 o'clock. The dog has to go on at 9, because if they don't go on at 9, we might go into overtime, and the stage hands will get overtime, and it will cost me the dog has to go on at 9. So please get off so the dog can play." I was like, I never forgot that.
Roger, would you say that there was something that you learned from the experience of not only being around Jimmy Buffett, but also from being in the Coral Reefer band?
Oh yeah, a lot of things I learned. You know, when I went to work for him, we played every kind of gig, from the cafeteria in a college, you know, to playing a festival with just me and him to 135,000 people. You know, there was a festival in Oklahoma that had John Hartford and Charlie Daniels and Doc Watson and me and him. You know, we walked out on the stage and there were like 135,000 people in the audience, and for two acoustic guitars, you know, I'm glad I drank in those days, you know, because I don't want to go on that stage by myself, you know.
I remember in our first interview you saying the Coral Reefer band was not a sentimental sort of band. You said, you know, it was a party time, but you know, with Mr. Buffett sailing on, I'm wondering, can you tell us what's your fondest memory of Jimmy?
You know, when I left the band, you know, he was so nice. He gave me a Rolex Oyster Perpetual watch, and you know, and he helped set me up with an A&R guy from a record label. That, you know, I was unable to turn that into a record deal, but you know, he did his dead level best to give me a boost up, you know, and the fact that you know, nothing came of it was my fault. You know, I just, you know, it was like getting into the 80s where the disco thing was beginning to happen and the punky thing was going on, and you know, I was a blues rocker, which was probably not, well, not probably, but it was definitely not what the record labels were looking for at that time. You know, and with Margaritaville happened. I played on that record, but I left just before that record came out, and you know, that kind of put him on the map. He was always a guy who was in his own genre. You know, he worked out of Nashville, but he was never a country act, never really a pop act. You know, he was, you know, we used to talk about that, and he'd try to come up with a name for the kind of music that he did. He, at one point, he decided to call it golf and western. But now I guess there's all these trop rockers, and I guess, you know, people associate him with trop rock, but you know, trop rock is not really what he did. You know?
No.
So I don't know. You know, it was a great experience. I have to tell you, there were so many, funny things that happened to us and incredible things. And, at one point I ran into him. He said, "You're not telling embarrassing stories about me, are you?" I said, "I stopped."
Do you, in terms of your recording with him, do you remember any specific cuts that you especially liked playing on?
Well, I played on A Pirate Looks at 40. I like playing on that. When I first went to work for him, that was the A1A album was the first album that I played on. And I was just too young and stupid to realize that I was in over my head. And I just went ahead and, played my heart out, and they managed to keep me on the album, because there was all these heavy-duty Nashville guys there, and Jimmy was really great. He pitched for me to play on the record, where I know the record producer was not really that anxious to have me play, and I was happy that Jimmy stood up for me and got me on there. And so to be on a song, like the Pirate Looks at 40 is really, an extra special thing to me. But, that whole album was really great. We went into the studio, and I think we did it in maybe, 3 or 4 days. We just went in with the band, like 1, 2, 3, 4, play through it. And then, they went in a couple of days later and did the vocal overdubs, and the producer was a background singer, a guy named Don Gant. And so he brought his background singing people in, and they did their thing and added whatever other stuff they were. But the guy who played electric guitar on that stuff was Reggie Young, who was a legendary studio player, and I should have been like totally intimidated by him, but like I say, I was like too young and too stoned. And Doyle Grisham, the pedal steel player who was still with Jimmy, right up here till the last, was there. He didn't really start playing in the band on the road until the 90s, but he played on all Jimmy's albums. And the drummer was a guy named Sammy Creason, who actually played with a group called Bill Black's Combo. Now, I don't know, you got to be really old to remember Bill Black's Combo. They were an instrumental group.
Oh, yeah.
But at one point, they toured Europe, and their opening act was the Beatles.
What's something?
Yeah. And let me see, Farrell Morris was the percussionist, and Tommy Cogbill played bass, and Mike Utley played keyboard. And Steve Goodman, I don't know, you know who Steve Goodman is? Steve Goodman
Definitely.
played some guitar on there too. Steve Goodman was a unique personality that I got to meet through Jimmy Buffett, a great songwriter, great guitar player, and a hell of a nice guy.
I have one more Buffett question. This is a submitted question.
Okay.
So, you were the first Coral Reefer guitarist. This question comes from the final Coral Reefer guitarist. This is from Peter Mayer.
Okay.
And he wants to know, being the first per se guitarist for Jimmy, Roger Bartlett had that unique gift of seeing Jimmy as a young, enthusiastic, sky's the limit point in his career. What quality, what strength does he remember most about Jimmy when he had a hard day? Say, a small audience, piss-poor food, or a piss-poor club owner. For a man that brought so much joy and many happy fun times to many people, I'd kind of like to know who he was in the hardest of times.
We were not really going through the hardest of times then, There might have been a club or two, that was not populated as well as he would have liked. But, back in those days, he was more of a raconteur. Once he got into the big stadium kind of thing, you can't really tell a story like he could at the Quiet Night in Chicago. And, you know, he was a great storyteller, and he would ramble on, and we played a gig once at the Bottom Line in New York City, and he got nervous, and he didn't tell the stories, and we didn't get over very well. And after the show, the guy from the record label said, "You got to talk. You got to tell the stories," you know. So after that, you know, he stuck to his story thing. You know, when I first went to work for him, you know, he was traveling alone, and it was really kind of lonesome out there, and nobody to hang around with, and you know, when he and I got together, you know, we had some great times, you know, that the storyteller thing, you know, was how he got through all the tough times, you know. But I have to say there weren't really that many tough times, you know, because he was kind of on the rise then, not really that famous, you know, people would be like, Jimmy Buffett, who's that, you know, as opposed to now, you know, he could still walk down the street, and we'd go hang out, we'd go walk through New Orleans, and, you know, I can vaguely remember, you know, going out, hanging with him, New Orleans, getting just totally smashed, you know, ending up still awake when the sun came up on the levee down there in New Orleans, which, you know, for years I didn't know really where the levee was because I was so drunk, you know, that we just sort of ended up there. And then I went down there later after I'd sobered up and with my wife at the time, and we turned around a corner, and the levee came. I was like, there it is. It's the levee. We had some really great times in New Orleans, and, you know, he was always a man to you know, sample the best. You know, we go to the best restaurant, you know, we'd stay at the best hotel. You know, he was quite a sophisticated guy, you know, quite a reader. I've always been a reader, and it was really nice to get out on the road, and he, you know, fed me books. You know, he turned me on to Larry McMurtry and Jim Harrison and Tom McGuane and Hunter Thompson, all these people he hung out with. We had a fantastic time doing everything, you know. We'd go out with the band. He'd buy the whole band a dinner, and, you know, it was just terrifically fun times. We do stuff like one time we played a birthday for a guy named Dan Gerber, who was of the Gerber baby food family, and we went out to his house, and you know, he had a balloonist fly in and set the balloon down in his backyard, and then a magician got out and did a magic show, and when the show was over, he got back in the balloon, and the balloon took. Now, how they did that, I don't know, but, you know, how they, you know, could steer that balloon to be there, I don't really know, but. You know, we do stuff like that. When he was doing the movie Rancho Deluxe, you know, we went out to Hollywood, and we hung around with the director Elliot Kastner. Went to his house, and Elliot was like, he had me take him down to the music store and help him buy a guitar, so he would have a guitar there when people came by to hang out, you know. And we hung around with a couple of little starlets, you know, which. Yeah, that was really kind of cool. So I didn't get to go to Montana to be in the movie because it was a low-budget movie. It had the unknown actors at the time. One was named Jeff Bridges, and the other unknown actor was a guy named Sam Waterston.
Right.
You know, who later became known.
To say the least, yes. Well, Roger, how would you feel about doing maybe one more song?
One more song?
Or as many as you like.
Okay, I'll be happy to do some. This is a song that I wrote that Jimmy recorded and put on his A1A album. It's called Dallas. If you ever get the chance to go to Dallas, take it from me, pass it by. But you'll only sing the blues down in Dallas. Take it from me, don't go and cry. And I'm leaving this town soon as I can. Gonna stop off for a while and see my woman. Yeah. People do you wrong down in Dallas. I know well, they've done it to me. Stealing all your bread, they're so callous. I know well, just look and see. And I'm leaving this town soon as I can. Gonna stop off for a while and see my woman. Yeah. I'm telling you now, don't get me wrong. Some people down there help me along my way. When my life collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane, it was hard to stay. Come on down and lose your mental balance. Look at me, half crazy now. Talking to chairs, a stranger, I know it. Look at me, I'm doing it now. And I'm leaving this town as soon as I can. Gonna stop off for a while and see my woman. Leaving this town as soon as I can. Gonna stop off for a while and see my woman. Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Thanks, I wrote that.
Yes, indeed.
Age 20.
All right, so
Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind. All right, here's one off of the Spice of Life album. It's the first song. I co-wrote it with a guy named Andrew Talbert. It's called Peace of Mind. Everybody's gotta have it. If you want it, you can get it. But you just gotta be there on time. If you don't wanna lose it, once you wrap your arms around it, you just gotta hold on so tight. Peace of mind comes in time. That's what I'm hoping for. Let it go, feel it flow. Warm winds blow through your mind. Well, you're never gonna buy it, and you're never gonna sell it. You don't get a discount, it's free. Nobody's gonna give it, ain't nobody gonna take it. You just get a feeling inside. Peace of mind comes in time. That's what I'm hoping for. Let it go, feel it flow. Warm winds blow through your mind. All you gotta do is want it, and you gotta try to find it. Then it's gonna sneak up on you. If you want it, you can get it, and it doesn't cost you 20. It's already inside of you. Peace of mind comes in time. That's what I'm hoping for. Let it go, feel Feel it flow. Warm winds blow through your mind. Let it grow. Feel it flow. Warm winds blow through your mind.
All right. You know, Roger, you were mentioning in this interview some really interesting people that you've crossed paths with, and also places that you've been, from the Exit Inn to the Troubadour, you know, some very, very unique experiences. Would you say that your experiences, have they molded you to be more of a half glass empty or a half glass full kind of person?
A half glass full kind of person.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, at this point in my life, you know, I want to be happy, you know, and I want to look at the good side of things. I mean, if not now, then when? You know, as the song goes. Yeah, you know, I'm on more of a positive thing. Like, I have a song right now. It's Don't come to me like a storm front, thunder and lightning and rain. A warm sunny smile, that's what I want, and a place in the sun once again. I want to smile like a Cheshire cat does up in a tree. I want to laugh like a pirate when he's sailing to sea.
Very nice.
So, you know, that's the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
You know, I want things to be good.
It kind of has a kind of a tone like a lot of the standards, the Great American Songbook kind of sound.
Well, you know, I'm looking at music, you know, the entirety of music for what I do now, because I'm an old guy and I've got a lot of experience through all kinds of different genres of music, and so, you know, I'm really looking at music more as art than fashion, you know, so that allows me to take something from wherever I wish, you know, rather than try to focus in on what's hot now.
Yeah. You know, speaking of those really renowned people that you crossed paths with, I wrote some of them down. Hoyt Axton, as you mentioned, but also if people go on rogerbartlett.com, 2 T's at the end of Bartlett. Hoyt Axton, Eagles, James Taylor, Count Basie.
Count Basie, yeah.
Jackie Wilson. I mean, my goodness. Who was the coolest, or who were you in awe to be around?
Well, Count Basie was definitely an awesome guy. You know, I was playing in a band in Dallas, Texas. We were doing the dance sets, and then the main act would come on. And I met Count Basie backstage, and he was so stoned. You know, I was like, hey, Roger Bartlett. And he was like, you're beautiful, baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Jackie Wilson was playing at that same club, and you know, he came in. He was like, hey, any of you guys got a joint? I was like, I do. So we went out to the van and smoked a joint, and so I sat out there with Jackie for however long that lasted, and then we did the show with him that night. You know, the thing about, you know, playing gigs with people on the same bill is you don't really get to hang out that much with them. You know,
Right.
You know, they come and do their sound check, you do your sound check. You might see them backstage, but you don't really get to sit around and say, hey, man, what's happening, you know?
Right. Nonetheless, you do have a list of bragging rights that you can carry around in your back pocket.
I do, you know, but that and $4.75 will get me a latte.
Well, I always like to end my interviews very open-ended, impossibly as wide as the ocean. For anybody who's watching or anyone who's listening, wherever they are out there, what would you say to all the folks?
I would say, go out and catch some live music. Buy some music. Don't go download some MP3s. Don't just stream. Do what you can to keep live music alive. Because God knows the music scene, the gig scene is really, hurting at the moment. Or down here, it's all singles and duos, and it's hard to get a band gig going. So, go out there and see your favorite musician and support them.
That's right. Well, Roger Bartlett, it's a pleasure to sit down with you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. And also, thank you to Melissa May and the adorable Remington for all the positive vibes. All right, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.
We thank you and appreciate you dropping in for the Paul Leslie Hour today. You can help the Paul Leslie Hour in our mission to provide independent media content like this by visiting www.thepaulleslie.com/support. We truly thank you. This is your announcer speaking. Performance of The Entertainer intro song and Corina outro song, courtesy of John Primorano. Well, that's it for today. So until next time, be safe and be good.